I have to ask you this question. If I have two balloons and one of the balloon I filled it with the helium gas and the other balloon I filled it with the carbon dioxide gas. Now what is going to be happen? If I release both of these balloons, what is going to be happen? And you would say, Kamran, it's not a rocket science. Of course, the balloon which is filled with the helium is going to higher in the sky. All right? Very clear? What about if I'm going to fill it with the carbon dioxide? You say, again, it's not a rocket science because anything which is carbon dioxide, of course, heavier than air, it will goes down. Now, this is a metaphor I'm using right now, my dear friends. And I'm going to take this example that whenever we talk about some sort of beliefs in our life, some sort of beliefs, they act like there's matter inside. So basically, there is no power itself in the balloon except the content which goes inside. I hope it sounds sense what I'm trying to say. So this balloon has a content of helium gas, and that helium gas actually brought it up into the sky, and this balloon has a content which is a different content, and it's a heavier than air, and it is going to bring it down. So there is nothing specific with the balloon but with the content which it carries. So if I take this metaphor, I have found that as a human being, there are certain set of belief systems which we carry in our head. And if these belief systems are empowering, it can take us to a different level of success and happiness and achievement in our personal life, in our professional life. But if we have a disempowering belief, and that belief which actually does not serve its purpose, rather it drags us down towards the earth, and that's why we feel like we have been failure. Now, if I say that some of the beliefs, some of the behaviors, for example, a number of times I highlighted one of the aspects that in our life, one of the belief which I carry and which I found is so empowering, which is I'm saying that it is a belief of gratitude. And that gratitude, I say that whenever I'm having a lot of gratitude in my life, this is going to attract a lot of good things in my life, because that gratitude is a feeling of abundance. And that gratitude does not give me any margin to blame and complain. So, but what about if I fill myself with blame and complain, and with the greed and with the lust and with the backbiting, etc., what is going to be happen? It is going to drag me down over here. So this is one of the metaphor that why it is important. Now, if you are listening to it and if you say, Kamran, I feel like might be some of the matter inside of myself is not that good, and I feel like that I'm being dragged down, I'm been going down in form of my relationships, in form of my professional success, how we can change that? What exactly is the process in which we can change that? So that's why I mentioned that today whatsoever I'm going to talk with you is very practical. And why it's important? Because we have a different roles. We have a role as a professional, we have a role as a family person, and we will say that being as a manager, being as a father, being as a brother, whatsoever the role we have been having, we are having certain level of influence. And that influence, that if I'm having a good matter inside of myself, of course I can download a good belief system in my kids. I can download a good empowering belief system in my team as well. So that's a matter what we are going to talk today. Now let's look into that part, how that belief system work. And I have just put some of the scenario over here, and I'm going to write it down for you, that how it started, and you can write it down. That is the thing which I'm going to talk about, that there are different neurological layers in which the beliefs built in a system. The first thing which it starts with, it is called the environment. Environment mean my surrounding. Environment mean my culture. Environment mean that the society I've been living and breathing in. Environment mean that the office scenario in which I've been living in. So that environment is the first starting point over here. That environment which always stay with us. For example, when I was getting my upbringing, and like yourself, you have been getting your upbringing as well. You've been having that environment which has been provided to you by your parents, by the society, by the teachers, and by your relatives, etc. So that create an environment. So our beliefs started shaping up from there onward, and this value system which it comes to us, it actually what happened from that environment, we got something very interesting which is our behaviors. So from that environment, we identify some of the behaviors. So what are those behaviors? Behaviors are, for example, if I'm been living in that society, which is totally different from a Western society, of course, in that environment, there are certain social cultural norms which have to be followed with. I have to maintain that element of respect. While I'm being here in the office environment, there are certain sort of behaviors which I have to reflect. And when I'm being in my personal environment, in my family environment, there are certain behaviors. There are certain behaviors which are being expected from myself over there. Now, the point is whether I'm having that capability to deliver those behaviors. Of course, this is a question of my capability. This is a question of my competence. Do I have those capabilities? Do I have those competencies which is required in my office environment? Do I have that sort of competencies, my capabilities in which I have to treat my family and to do the upbringing of my kids? This is all the subject. So please remember, on the lower level, we start with the environment. Environment drives some of our behaviors, and behaviors actually give us that capability, the competencies in which we need to operate somewhere over here. Now, the real game changer happened over here, because these are the neurological level. When actually we are having that sort of capabilities, there is something, these capabilities, three things, which actually shape something different over here, which is called our belief systems. So our beliefs are being shaped up from that level onto that. Now, question what I've been talking about, there are two different domains over here. Now, in this belief system, there are some sort of my experiences which I have got over here, and some of these experiences actually put certain sort of standards in my mind. So every belief system has certain sort of standards which I carry in my head. Now, for example, I'm using this marker, and whether I have to say that this marker is a good marker or a bad marker. Now, there is a definition, is a good marker or a bad marker. Now, I make some of the definition in my mind, some of the standard, that if I'm using that board marker, of course, this is a digital marker, I'm not quoting that example. I'm saying, imagine I'm using a board marker, and I imagine that the board marker, the life should be at least for 3 months. Now, that's a standard I carry. Now, what happened if I found that this marker stopped working after 1 month? It means that I can tag it because it does not fulfill the 3 months threshold of that period. It means, according to my standard, this is not a good marker. So we carry some sort of standards. Now, the point is that whenever we tag somebody, we say he or she is a good manager. What is the reference we are using over here? What are the standards we are using over here? When we tag ourselves, I'm not good in communication skill, or I'm not good in relationship. I'm not a good engineer, or I'm a fantastic speaker. Now, what are the things which I carry in my head? There are certain standards in my head, and I compare my belief system that if you are achieving that, it means that you fall into a good category or you go into a bad category. So all these standards, we are emerging from our environment, we are emerging from our behaviors, and we are getting a feedback by virtue of our capabilities and capacities. Now, the thing which happened over here, when we have been operating that belief, one of the things which is very critical, and if you have not written it down, please write it down. Please, I beg you to write it down. What's the word? I'm going to write it down over here, and you will find that why I said this is a game changer today. I'm going to write it down for you in bold letters so that you can identify. This is called your identity. My dear friends, the whole game is happening on these two levels. What is your identity? Now, if I ask you, and write it down this question, who are you? I'm asking you this question right now. If you have been looking towards me, I've been asking you, who are you? Write it down, the answer, what comes into your mind. Whatsoever the answer you are going to write it down, it is going to identify your identity. So, for example, you say, I'm a trainer. So that's my identity. I'm a family person. I'm a father. I'm a brother. Oh, I'm a manager. Oh, I'm an Emirati. or I'm any nationality you say. So basically, there are certain identities which I relate with, and I'm happy with it. I'm proud with it, because there is certain belief system and certain experiences which actually give me that identity. Now the point is that this identity and belief systems, they are being embedded in our subconscious level. They are our subconscious level. They are embedded over here with the repetitive so much experiences. Now, why this identity is very important? I'm going to quote you an example. Have you experienced that? Have you experienced that many of the people, they make a firm promise that they are going to quit smoking, and then after a certain period in time, they get back and started doing smoking? There are certain people you might have witnessed that initially they lose some of the weight by virtue of some crash diet and exercises, etc. And after a certain period in time, they get back that lost weight. Why it's happening? My dear friends, the answer is they do all the things, but they do not change their identity. So for example, if you come and ask me, if I take an example, I have quit smoking, and if you come to me and you say, Kamran, would you like to have a smoke? And I say, Muhammad, I'm sorry, I'm trying to quit smoking. I'm trying to quit smoking. It means the identity of a smoker is still in my head, and there is a very likely chance that I will get back to it in some day. But on the contrary, if you come back and I had a different role and you say, Kamran, would you like to have a smoke? And I say, Muhammad, I'm sorry, I'm not a smoker. So are you getting the power what I'm trying to say? I'm not a smoker has a different identity as compared to I'm trying to quit smoking. My dear friends, this is a reason that many of the people who actually started a long period in time as an employee in a company, and that happened, I heard a lot of stories of my friends who actually got a big golden checks, and sometimes they are not that much successful in their business ventures. Why it happened? Because their identity, when they go into a business venture, their identity is an employee. Their identity is not an entrepreneur. Because if they change their identity, what is going to change? Some of their belief systems has to be changed. Some of the standards has to be changed. When it has to be changed, then what they have to be changed? Some of their competencies which is required to conduct a business has to be changed. Some of their behaviors has to be changed, and they have to go into a different environment because that environment set their standards. So whenever people talk about, Kamran, what is the best way in which the change happened on a permanent basis, please remember that there are two ways of flow, the information flow. First is the profound change start from top to bottom. When you go from identity to belief to capabilities, behaviors, this is going to be a permanent change, because if you today you identify yourself and you say, I'm a good communicator, I'm a trainer. Now, what some of the elements I'm going to share with you, if you would like to relate with that. If you go around in your office, you might have seen that your colleagues have put certain sort of symbols or their sense of some certificates or achievements on their tables around. And so for some of the tables, you might have found that people have put their family pictures over there. Somewhere they have been put some of their artwork, etc. Now, what they are being identifying, they are identifying themselves by virtue of their family, or some of them they are being identifying by virtue of their achievements, some of them they are being identifying by virtue of their successes, etc. So whatsoever you are identifying, that control the power within yourself, because your beliefs are being shaped according to that. Now, these two things which are being on a subconscious level, remember that part, because it's a subconscious, people are more emotional onto that. If you challenge their beliefs, if you challenge their identity, you can get a more emotional response from them. That is the reason when some people, they identify themselves with certain nationality and they feel proud of it. Suddenly, if somebody says something, what happened? That actually impact their identity, that impact their beliefs. So they are so much emotional onto that, because this is the way in which they are being driven with that. And rest of the things, they are being driven onto that part. Now, Another question what we have to talk about, I hope now let's quickly, because it's a very important, I would ask you to write it down for yourself. First of all, what I said, environment to behaviors, behaviors to capabilities. This is on the conscious level. Unconscious and subconscious level that shape up our beliefs, and beliefs actually shape up our identity. So if you change your identity, your belief system is started changing up. Now the question is, whenever we are having that beliefs and standards, what can change our beliefs? So some of the experiences which we have are different experiences. We got a different set of standards, and over here there is certain interpretation of those events which we make that change our belief systems as well about ourselves. So for example, if there was a time I tried to for example, learn how to swim, but I was a bit afraid of going into the water. And one day when I get myself registered into it, and when my trainer asked me to jump into it from the day one, and I was so much afraid, but I make it happen. And that different experience has changed my belief system that I can do that, and I'm easily been able to do it. So in this way, the interpretation which you make about those experiences, that has a power, my dear friend. That change your beliefs as well. So for example, as I mentioned, that there are certain empowering beliefs and there are certain disempowering beliefs. So some of the people, they come to me and they said, Kamran, we have some of the challenges with our line manager, for example. We are not feel at ease, and this is the thing, this is happening. Then I say, all right, how your experience right now? He said, oh, it's very bad, it's very tough, and things like that. Then I told them, I said, why don't you interpret in such a way that throughout your life you are going to come across a lot, or some of the people like that, but this is your opportunity where you are learning how to deal with a difficult boss. Now, when you change that interpretation, your beliefs and your empowerment change altogether, and then you make those standards in which to operate. Now, my question is, as I mentioned earlier, that when some person, they are having an employee mindset and they start a business, why they fail? Because their employee mindset, they have a different belief system, and that belief system does not provide them with the results over there. And from where they are getting the standards, they are getting the standard from their like-minded who are already an employees, etc. But if you change your identity, your belief system change, then from where you will get the standards, you will not get a standard from the same people which you used to hang around. You will go into a better circle of the people who are already an entrepreneur, and you started getting a better standard, and your belief started happening and strengthening more onto that part. Now, let's look into that, how we can actually get our beliefs into action. Now, this is a very important subject, as I mentioned, and let's look into that, how we can actually trigger our belief system. So what I said, your beliefs have a power. Your beliefs have a power. Now, from where you get a belief from some sort of experiences which you got from your environment. Now, these experiences from where you got the thing where you focus on. So where you focus on, for example, in our environment, there are some of the things which are good, which are not good. Now, question is where you are focusing in those experiences. Are you focusing on something which is beyond your control, and you slide back into a victim mentality, and that victim mentality gives you a belief that nobody has been there to take care of yourself? Now, this is one belief. The second belief is, if you come across a challenging environment and nobody's been there to take care of yourself, and you ask to yourself that an interpretation that this is my opportunity where I have to be a tough guy and I have to learn a lot how to deal with a difficult situation. Now you had a different belief system which work over there. Now when you are having an empowering belief, now you know what happened. When you are having an empowering belief, the first thing it happened, your physiology change. That physiology has a direct relation with your emotions. Because if you are having an empowering belief, your emotions are more positive. And when you are having a more positive, your body, your physiology react in a very different way. Now, when you are having a different set of emotions altogether, what it changed then? These emotions and this physiology, it actually, you take a different set of actions. When you feel empowered, you take a different set of actions. When your identity is that I am a victor, then your actions are different. But when your identity that I am a victim, nobody take care of myself, there is nothing is happening around me, I cannot change anything, and this is the way I have to live my life, your actions are totally different over here. So your beliefs drive your emotions, and emotions, always remember, my dear friends, emotion is energy in motion. So whether my energy has been directed towards achieving some of my goals and objectives and things like that, so my emotions and my physiology is totally different. Now, like while I've been talking to you, have you seen that my body is reacting in a very different way? Because the way I've been communicating and the way my body is reacting is actually giving me a lot of positive sense of energy, and my action which I've been taking is more massive, and I'm been going around and sharing the message which I personally believe in. Now over here when we talk about actions, so actions mean that here you take a better strategies, because there is no failure in life. There is no failure in life except the method, the strategies which fail. There's no failure. So when you operate from that point of view, that there is no failure in life except the strategies which they fail, you take a massive action, then you know what you got. You got an amazing results over here. And you got an amazing results. And when you got an amazing results, your belief further strengthened. Yes, absolutely, your identity as a victor, your identity as an achiever, your identity as a successful family person, your identity as a successful manager, it is true. And then you actually go round and round in that circle, and that belief, once you have been enough into that circle, that actually strengthen your identity as an achiever. So for example, when I started myself, as I mentioned, I was having a different belief about myself, and my life was totally different. But when I get a belief that this is just an internal scenario, please, my dear friends, remember, there are no constraints outside, there is only constraint inside. So when I broke those constraints, my belief changed, my physiology and emotions changed, my set of actions changed, my results change. And when I done it number of time in that circle, that my identity has strengthened. Yes, of course, I'm being a public speaker. Yes, of course, I have something of value to share with my colleague. Yes, of course, I can talk to people if there are some of the sessions I've done in which 5,000 people have been in the hall, and I was been talking in the same way like I've been talking to you. What has been strengthened is actually when I go into that circle, and my belief and my identity has been strengthened over there. Now what I do normally, even at my workplace, I have all the symbols around at my workplace which strengthen my belief that I am a trainer, that I am a public speaker, that I am a life changer, that of course my mission is to make a bit of contribution, and I have to change that, because if I'm going to make a little bit of difference, we can say sometime that this is going to be impactful in the long run for you. That focus on those beliefs which you are carrying right now, and question yourself whether this belief which you are having is serving its purpose, or it has been a roadblock for yourself towards the path of your happiness, towards the path of your success, towards contributing something of value. So my dear friends, today we talk about this aspect, and I'm going to leave this thought. Anything where we are having a different concepts and a different thing, where we feel like internal conflict, the things happen, our identity is different, our beliefs are different. If we are going to align our identity and our beliefs together, and we are generate those capabilities, generate those behaviors out of ourselves, and in the thing we are being able to achieve whatsoever the best we have been dreamed so far. So this was the most empowering thing which I thought I have to leave with you. Think about it. Think about who you are. Ask this question, who you are, and you are going to get an answer in front of you.